How hard is it to open the garage in Imandra? Let's find out. The two tasks needed to open the Imandra garage are broken power station and repairing power lines. And while these tasks on their own don't seem that difficult, the way that we approach them is going to make all the difference. To begin with, the broken power station task requires 2 metal beams delivered to the substation in Imandra. We visited the substation on the last episode with the big cat, and it's sitting over there waiting for us if we need it. If we choose to acquire the metal beams from the loading zone in Imandra, we're going to have to drive through one of the worst roads that's on that map. So my first piece of advice would be start in Lake Cove, get yourself a sideboard trailer, and pick up a couple metal beams at the port. We're going to have to make a long trip diagonally across 2 maps to the delivery point. It's basically the furthest away from where we're starting possible. Having said that, even though that's the case, it's still better than getting the beams from that map. So just like before, we're going to have to drive across Lake Cove, taking the route that we have been taking on the last couple episodes to get over to the Imandra map. As per usual, we are going to work on a few other things at the same time to try to increase the efficiency of our gameplay. You all know my number one piece of advice for this game in general is to multitask and work on other things while you're in certain areas. We've already seen how this dramatically decreases the number of times you have to drive across the map, and the worst thing that we can do is recover to the garage and start fresh from there after every single contract or task. So we head across Lake Cove the same way that we've been taking, starting to feel like I've said that a few times lately, but either way it is the quickest way to get to Imandra in my opinion. I have the biggest engine in the Taiga, along with the high-range gearbox to increase my fuel range, and I'm using the OHD1 tires. I personally think that off-road tires are the best choice in this region for a majority of the jobs. There are occasions where I would choose to put chain tires on, but they're few and far between. These tires have a great off-road rating of 3.0 and a decent mud rating of 1.9. Add that to the mass of 200 and you have a pretty good choice for getting through this stuff. They will suffer when we get into the really deep muddy spots because they don't have the surface area, but like I said, that is why we have the big cat available for us to use. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the airport since we've made this same trip a few times now. And leaving here, we're going to take the same path that we did with the big cat, going straight through the snow, but it's going to be a little more challenging. So I would advise sticking close to these trees that are not breakable to help speed up the process a little bit. You'll have to go through here in low because auto is just going to have tire spin. If you start getting stuck, you can use these trees to winch yourself through. That's one advantage of having a low saddle trailer is it gives you a longer winching range versus just running a truck bobtail with a flatbed. This next section here with the big rocks, I would advise keeping your momentum up because if you try to go through here too slow, there's a high likelihood that you'll get stuck on one of these boulders and then we'll have to bring a truck over here to pull it off. So taking some damage is better than getting trapped. Try to stay as far right as possible when you're going through this last part here right before the concrete slab, because that ice there, you'll get stuck in that as well. And then you'll definitely want to be more careful not to fall off of this dark blue ice. We kind of got spoiled on the last episode. The big cat, there wasn't a whole lot to worry about because it still manages to drive through it, but this truck is going to have a way harder time. So be careful where you drive. Don't get going too fast because you can slide off into the unwanted areas pretty easily as well without having chain tires. Now, instead of going over the rocks, we're going to go around this by following the ice shards that go along the edge. They're solid to drive on. You just have to take it easy. Be careful you don't slide off into the lake. And then, if at all possible, always try to stay on the white ice, even over the blue, because you'll have some traction on the white. We're going to take a left, same as before, and we'll follow the same path up that goes up through this valley. and we do have more of these giant boulders, so keep your momentum up if possible. There are some trees through here. If you do get hung up on one of these, you can winch yourself off, but once you lose your momentum, it's really difficult to get any speed back up again. The two middle beams are definitely a heavy load, so cruising up through here probably isn't much of an option. Just do your best. But we made it through. We're going to follow the road up to the right, and then we'll take the first left turn and back onto that muddy road. I do like to drive in first person when I'm winching myself through real deep muddy spots. It seems like it helps to kind of spider winch and throw it out as far as possible, but it's not necessary by any means. It's just a preference of mine. Is definitely slow progress through here with the OHD ones. They, like I said, they just don't have the surface area. The Tega balloons would work great for this section, but then they're going to struggle on all the other sections. So there's not going to be any one tire choice that is the ultimate. But we're almost there now, so we'll head back down to the ice and we'll stay close to the shoreline so we don't get stuck. And we can grab some fuel while we're going by the big cat here. And then we'll just take the same path that we did last time, going under the bridge and making a U-turn down on the riverbed. Let's get these metal beams delivered. That'll be the end of this task. Now, a new task has unlocked right behind us, so we'll get the next one, repairing power lines, activated. And we'll have to pick up 2 wooden planks. The wooden planks are in the center of the map, but before we head back there, we're going to take care of something for a future contract. We'll need to locate the armored cars for the Price of Victory contract, so we'll run up the hill here and find the first one. We can load it right up onto our 5th wheel plate, and we'll just haul it back down to the trailer. Let's get turned around and we'll head back out the same way we came in. Originally, the game intended for us to use the metal detector module to locate these armored cars, but the game code is a little bit screwed up with them in the sense that the metal detector doesn't really work unless you're close to the object you're looking for. So I'm not even going to waste the time installing it on a truck to drive it out here. It's not required to do the contract, and if they had actually made it work correctly, I would probably implement it into the gameplay, but I usually don't anymore. We'll drive down the shoreline a ways here. We're going to drop the trailer. Just about tipped over. Let's get it positioned correctly on the hill here. And then we'll go down into this little ravine and follow the ice up. There's an ice trap up here that has the second armored car. Do not drive down into that ice trap. You can get out, but it's a pain in the butt. We can reach it with the mini crane, and we'll just yank it up the hill, try to get it pulled out of there. Then we'll do the same thing, just load it up on the fifth wheel plate, and we'll haul it back to the trailer from here. You wouldn't have to work on this if you chose to do it later. That's totally optional. I'm only doing it because we're going to have to refuel before we get the wooden planks. Otherwise, we'll run out of fuel before we can complete the repairing power lines task. So the fuel trailer that we'll top off at is located at the future garage down on the map. Let's activate the Price of Victory contract. We had to jump back into the Dan to show that we did the first part, that we located the metal detector module upgrade. And then the second part is to drive to the lost BA-20s, which are these vehicles. And that's just a waypoint that's down here that we need to drive over. But we can also run up the river a little ways and grab this cabin, and we'll pull it down with us. These rocks are ridiculous. I'm going to try winching to the cabin and use the stream to pull me off of here, but that's not working either. I'm going to have to use my mini crane to prop my truck up on one side to try to get off. Okay, that's doing it. We'll get the task activated. Make sure you activate it here because there is not another place to activate this task. It's only in this one location. We're finally getting out of there. We'll pull this cabin down and we're gonna bring it with us. What I was getting at earlier about the fuel is that when we top off on fuel, we'll drop these cars off down by the garage so we don't have to come back up here again to locate them. We're just trying to be efficient with our trips and make sure we're not driving anywhere empty. Might as well be hauling something. So here's the waypoint just up ahead that we need to reach for the Price of Victory. Okay, now that that stage is complete, the next stage is to deliver them to the airport. We're not going to drive all the way to the airport with them, but later on we will, and we'll have them located at the garage for us to load from there. Now this cabin just needs to be pulled across the ice here to the right. So we'll top off with fuel one more time, pull this cabin up here a little ways, and we're going to use the big cat to drive it over there. There's some pretty deep breakable ice through here, and you can drive over there with the Taiga, but it's a little more difficult. You might as well use this truck to do it. If you stay to the right, it's a lot easier to get through here. I kind of just drove right out in the middle accidentally, but we're still making it through. This thing is a beast. We'll get it dropped off here. And now that task is complete as well. Let's jump back into the Taiga and we'll continue on with our journey. So from here, we're going to head to the garage. We'll get unloaded and we'll get topped off with fuel. And then the next step will be heading to the pickup point for wooden planks. We'll get loaded up with 2 of them. We're going to have to deliver them to 2 different locations where there's a fallen pole and a crash pole. This time going through here is going to be a little more challenging because the road is starting to get tore up, and each pass you make through here, it gets worse. So if you can, try not to drive on the same tracks as the last time. That'll make it a little bit easier, at least on this pass. The next one might be quite a bit more difficult. Opening the Imandra garage is actually a pretty difficult operation, and I've heard plenty of stories where people just quit playing the game altogether working on this because of frustration. I don't want that to happen to you, so let's do this together. We'll get you through it. Once the garage is open, it makes this map a lot more tolerable, because you don't have to drive over here from Lake Cove each time, which should increase your confidence while doing work over here. Now that we're back, we can get these armored cars unloaded here. We're gonna just drop them on the ground. We'll come back at a later time and load them up when we're ready to deliver them. We'll head in through the garage parking, get topped off with fuel. Definitely want to make sure you do that. Then we're going to drive right out the backside of the garage. Just like in Lake Cove, we'll blow the fence down and we'll get out of here. On our way to the lumber yard, we can get started on the everything for the pictogram task. Basically just need to reach 5 different measurement zones. We're not going to reach all 5 of them, but we can knock off whichever ones we can reach while we're headed over there. So we'll get down to the bottom. We do got to drive through some ice here. It's pretty deep, but like I said, coming up on the other side, if you can stick to the ice that has the white spots on it, you'll have a little bit of traction. So let's get this first one, and then we'll make a U-turn. We're going to head up into the hills. And we'll go through the trees. There's another waypoint straight up ahead here that's for a different task. They're kind of scattered around all over the place, and if you do all of these tasks separately, you're going to have to drive to the same spots many times. So this is for the forecast for tomorrow task. This is one of the weather data capture zones. So now we've got that off the list, and there is a road up here. We're gonna follow this road up and we can get loaded up with wooden planks at the end of it. There's a lot going on here. I hope you're able to follow. We're switching around between different tasks and contracts, but just keep in mind that we're taking care of a lot of different things all at the same time, and we're increasing our efficiency dramatically. So the loading point is right here to the right. We just need 2. And then you can see there's a waypoint here. That's for the old scrap metal task, where we need to bring that little scout flatbed back over by the Lake Cove gateway. It's one of the first tasks we activated coming in here. We're not going to haul it all the way over there, but we do want to pull it out of here so we don't have to come up here again. So we'll take the road down. The bridge is out. We're going to have to cut down onto the ice. We'll bounce over these boulders. We'll get down here and take our first immediate right. Now, I dropped the trailer there, but if you choose to, you could bring it further up the road before dropping it, because we'll have to come over here eventually and pick it up. Either way, it's out of the location where we found it, so we don't have to drive all the way up there again. Let's get back on the road that's following along the side of the power line poles. And then you can see up on the hill there is another one of the weather data capture zones. We're gonna go get that next. So when you get to the Y in the road, you can either go left or right, either way is fine. But on the other side of it, we're gonna cut off and go up into the hills. It might actually be easier if you go right. Now driving through here, there are some breakable trees we can go across, and then cruise right up that hill and high. The snow is perfect. It doesn't slow you down at all. And then we'll take our first immediate left. Now this is going to get a little bit more tricky, pulling this long trailer through the trees. There's probably going to be a few spots where you're going to have to winch your truck sideways, either the front of the truck or the back of the trailer to get through here. But you can see that weather data capture zone is straight up ahead. We'll get this knocked off the list. We do not want to have to come up here more than once. And there's a few different tasks and contracts in this area. So the next one that we'll work on is Places of Military Glory. And just like in Lake Cove, where we had to travel around and discover the old abandoned bunkers, we're going to have to do that here as well. Trees get a little bit tight here. Some winching will help for sure. Just remember the little trees you can drive over. And now we've met back up with the road, if you can even call it that. We don't have to worry about trees, we just have to worry about the boulders now. As you can see, we're already down to about half a tank of fuel. If we wouldn't have topped off at the garage, we'd be running out by now. So we got that one. Let's jump back to repairing power lines, and we'll head up ahead. The first power line is on the other side of this rock field. We don't want to drive over this. We can go around this big pile of rocks and drive to the left. Okay, we've reached the first pole. Let's not drive down there. We'll go down to the left between these two bigger rocks. It's not a road, but it's easy enough to drive down. And we'll get that one delivered. We've repaired it. Now we just have one left. The best case would be to drive through between these two sections of rock here, but I can't quite get through there, so I'm going to have to drive over the side. We're getting pretty low on fuel now, and we have a lot of deep mud to drive through. So the next thing we're going to want to do is get this trailer backed up in here. We're going to disconnect from it, but we want to get it backed in there in such a way that when we connect to it, we can head back out the opposite direction. It's a little tricky, but you can pull it backwards with these trees, kind of help out a little bit. We'll just drop it right here. We're going to drive up the road a little ways, and there's a Yar 87 just chilling out here with a full tank of fuel, so we're going to steal it. We get 110 liters out of that. Now we're back up to about 2/3 of a tank. That should get us to our drop-off point. I'm going to pull it back just a little ways so it's in a better location to be hauled out later. Let's head back down to our trailer and get connected. We still have some nasty stuff to drive through before this task will be over. The trailer's conveniently parked right in my way, so I'm going to use my crane to try to get it out of the way just a little bit. And now it's too low to back under, so I'll have to use my crane again. Okay, we got that. Let's go drop off this wooden plank and finish this task. This road is really deep mud, and it's going to be slow moving through here. The worst part about it is some of it is off camber, and if you tip over up in here, you're going to have to send another truck all the way up in here to rescue yourself, and it's such a pain in the butt because it's very narrow and a long ways from anywhere that's easy to access. So just take your time and make sure you don't get too lopsided, and if you get stuck on any trees, just winch your way around them. We can take a shortcut instead of following the road around. The worst mud section is actually further down the road here. So instead of going that way, we're going to cut left through the trees and we're going to come out down in that farmyard down there. It's pretty tight when you're pulling the trailer, but once again, we'll just have to winch our way around everything. It's still better than following the road. You'll end up burning probably almost all of your fuel up just trying to get to the end of it. And I think it would actually have been easier to go left around the house instead of to the right, because I managed to get stuck on these trees with my trailer. The 2 points that the trailer likes to get stuck on is going to be the back bumper, and then the rails along the side. They get hung up on stuff, or just the wheels themselves. But now that we're out of that, we'll head down to the river. This is where we just picked up the cabin recently, to the left. We're going to go straight up the ice hill. It's kind of tricky, but we'll have to winch our way up through here. And now we've made it to the drop-off. Let's get that delivered. The garage is now open, but if you recover from here, it will still take you back to Lake Cove. So we're gonna have to use one of our vehicles to actually drive over and discover the garage before we'll be able to access it. Come back on the next episode when we get started working on that. Appreciate everybody coming out. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.